Hello everybody on YouTube, this is Barry and welcome to my channel. In my sloppy introduction video, I mentioned that I would try to make some videos in a timely manner. It seems I may have fallen a little bit short on that promise. Actually, it wasn't a promise, I just mentioned I would try to do it. So, this is me trying to keep, the flow going here so that I can actually get some subscribers and some interest in my channel. Now, this channel doesn't necessarily cover any one topic. I could be one time the video could be about radio, the next it could be about politics. I hate politics, so most likely it won't be politics. Whew. Lucky you, right? There's two things I won't discuss. It's religion and politics. And but I will talk about radio. I will talk about science, astronomy mostly, space, music, definitely about music. I'm a diehard metal fan. I do like other genres of music, but I really prefer some heavy metal. We'll talk about life around Kentucky, life around the United States. Maybe talk about prepping, radio communications, broadcasting, which I've had a little bit of experience in broadcasting, so we may touch on that. Part 15, AM, FM, long wave, short wave, whatever it may be, the hobby side of part 15, and I'll explain that sometime in a video, but I'm just naming off some things that we might discover together on my channel. So I appreciate you tuning in. And the whole idea behind this channel is not so much having me on camera, a talking head as you will, trying to fumble through a video, try to keep the lighting perfect, keep the kitty cats out of the view, and which there's nothing wrong with showing the cats here now and then, but mine get a little bit testy when you're not paying attention to them. They'll get right up between you and the camera. So I do have cats, and I live in Kentucky, so the topics could be numerous. Whatever's happening in my life, whatever is happening in the world at the time, we may discuss, and we'll discuss my various hobbies, and we'll take it from there, and we'll see what happens, and we'll see what your input is on, how you think the show is going, what you think my YouTube channel should bring to the table. So without further ado, let's talk about something that's been kind of bugging me a little bit here lately, and that's a lot of prepper channels out there. First off, there's not a damn thing wrong with prepping. People have been doing it for thousands of years, and they will continue to do it until this world stops spinning. With that being said, quite a few channels have mentioned radio communications, mostly two-way radios like ham radio, CB, MRS, FRS, and GMRS. I'm not going to choose a type of radio for anybody in this discussion. That's not what this is about. This is about securing your communications. Now, whether it's a grid down situation, shit hit the fan, whatever you want to call it, I strongly believe that you need to keep your communications secure as possible. And believe me, there is no two-way radio out there aside from maybe digital, which, sorry to say, stuff like P25 can be descrambled. It can be decoded and can be heard with the right software. There's some SDR radios that can actually receive it, but unless you want to pay $500 for a scanner, Whistler and Uniden both make some digital scanners that will decode, P25 and what have you, but that's really not... I'm sure there's going to be some preppers out there that might be using those modes of communication, but This is basically going to talk on analog. Analog is, you know, just your basic walkie-talkies, you know, CB, MERS, VHF, UHF, you know. So again, I'm not going to choose what kind of communications or what kind of radios you choose to use in your bug out bag or any kind of emergency situation. That's up to you. Whatever you think works best for your situation, that's, you know, that's totally up to you. I'm going to use GMRS and FRS as an example here. One thing that's not been touched on much, I think there might have been a video that dropped here just recently, the past couple days. Somebody may have touched on securing your communications, but I haven't really checked it out. I saw it, but I clicked on something else. So first off, I believe I've seen GMRS explode in the past couple years. Now, the reason for that is we've got companies out there who are cranking some radios out, and you know, it's like Midlands and Redivis, you know, Radio Oddity, Baofeng, and you know, several others have just hit the market here just recently, and the market has exploded, and so has the use or the number of users on FRS and GMRS. Now, I mentioned FRS because it shares channels with GMRS, but FRS is license free, where GMRS you need a license that covers your family and yourself for 10 years. Right now it's at $70. They've been promising to drop it down to $35. I don't know. I don't know when that's actually going to happen. You know, it's just like waiting for them to put FM on a CB radio. They said that, yeah, we're going to do it, but it's still not in the rules and regulations yet. So we'll see how that pans out. But let's say you and your group or you and your family decide to go with GMRS radios, and you think, okay, I'm going to go to Walmart and buy these walkie-talkies by Cobra or Uniden or Midland. Okay, that's fine. And the first thing that gets you more than anything is that the privacy codes on these radios, or supposed privacy codes. Folks, don't be fooled. Those are not going to keep your communications private. I plan on doing a demonstration and show you exactly how unprivate those privacy tones are. Privacy tones, or PL tones, or most commonly known as CTCSS or DCS tones, kind of give you the false security that your communications are private, but they are not. Okay, so let's take Radio A. Now, Radio A doesn't have a privacy tone programmed. It's just straight, let's pick channel 16. There's no privacy tone been programmed into it. It's just straight, you know, out in the airways for everybody to hear. Radio B is on channel 16 as well, but it has a privacy code of 131.1. Okay, here's the kicker. Radio A can talk until he's blue in the face, trying to get a hold of Radio B, who's using a privacy tone. He can talk till he's blue in the face, about to die, and Radio B will not hear him. But Radio B can holler out, and Radio A possibly, and most times, will hear the radio that has that CTCSS code on it, or DCS code. So it is not 100% foolproof. It is not private or secure. If you want secure communications, and let's say that you have more than one building on your property, let's say you're going to bug in. You're not going to, run off to the woods to a cabin in the woods somewhere and live off the land and wait it out until things get better. Let's say you're just going to go ahead and stay at home at your farm or your homestead or whatever, and you want truly private communications, you can go two ways, actually. Since DCS and CTCSS codes, the privacy tones on most walkie-talkies are not really private, why not take one of two routes? One, digital, like P25 or whatever the next generation of digital communications is for walkie-talkies and mobile radios. Or here's another option. Like I said, if you have more than one building on your land, you can get a set of telephones. Yeah, I'm talking about the old telephones, the touch tone phones like Granny has in her house. It's always in those bright red or blue or, green, yellow colors. And some of them even had a dial pad on them instead of a touch tone. There's a kit that you can get on Amazon that will tie two or more telephones together, and you can ring each phone on your system privately without having to use Ma Bell. You won't be connected to a landline. You will be connected to a private line that you have run between buildings. And then you put this little device in the middle, and it powers the phones and provides communications between point A to point B to point C. You could even ring individual phones on your system. That is one way to build a truly private communications between buildings. Also, wired intercoms, not the wireless ones like you see at Radio Shack or, you see on Amazon where they're like 900 megahertz or FRS or whatever. Truly private intercom systems would be, you push a button, the guy in the next bedroom hears you, or the guy in the other side of the property back there in the shed hears your voice over a speaker that's hardwired into your buildings, your houses, and around your property. That's another way to be private, to have private communications. But if you absolutely positively have to use a radio or radios, get in the habit of using short, to the point communications between you and your party. If you choose to use the privacy codes, remember it's not 100% private. It may offer a marginal layer of security, but it's not 100% secure. So let's keep that in mind. But keep your communications short and to the point. Now, I can understand if you have a situation where you need to keep constant contact with your party. There may, come a time where you have to organize, guard duty on your property if you plan on bugging in. So, you may not want to, I can't concentrate. You may not want to check in on guard station A as often as you'd like to. Or what you would want to do, perhaps, you could switch up the times that you check in with guard check A or guard check B. So let's say tonight you're going to do it at 12 o'clock, midnight. But tomorrow night you're going to do it at 12:30 or, just scatter it out. Don't make it so obvious. But keep track of what you did the night before. Keep a log. If you are at the home base and you are checking in on people who are protecting your property, be it your family or friends or whatever, keep the communication short with them unless there's an emergency. and I could totally understand wanting to get all the information you can so that you can get help out to those people. But I would keep my communications just short and sweet and to the point. And another thing would be 10 codes or Q codes. Now, they're very commonly known because, hey, let's face it, some of us grew up around CB radio. We used not only AM where 10 codes were common, but we also, some of us use sideband, and some are ham operators, and the ham operators tend to use the Q codes while CBers use the 10 codes. So Q codes were basically adopted by CBers who use single sideband, and was originally from military and ham operators. You could essentially take either the Q codes or the 10 codes and rewrite them and maybe shorten them up, because they are really a very long list. And nobody wants to have to memorize, I don't know how many there is, but let's just say, for example, there's 25 codes. Nobody wants to memorize all that. Even if you print it out, which this is a possibility, you could print out after you have rewritten the Q or the 10 codes to work in your favor in your type of situation, or for your family and friends, or your group that you're in. You could print them off. I mean, this might be something that you want to do now before things get really ugly, provided you were able to buy printer ink, or you just have a pencil and paper, a pen and paper, write this stuff out, make them into little cards. You could even put them on index cards and shorten the 10 or the Q codes down and rewrite some of them. Now, you might want to keep like 10-1, okay, and then 10 codes. That means you're unreadable. I'm having trouble hearing you, too much static. You're weak. Okay, 10-4 means I understood. I received your message perfectly. But 10-100 meant you were into the bathroom. Dude, seriously, man. I mean, we've been friends for a long time, man, but, man, I really don't need to know when you're going to the bathroom, man. Just say you'll be right back, right? Really. That's what I used to do on the CB. I would just say, I'll be right back. Wasn't anyone's business that I was doing my business. So you could change the Q codes or the 10 codes to work in your favor, and maybe keep some of the original classic Q codes and 10 codes to work in your favor if you believe that they would actually work in a emergency situation, or a shit hit the fan type of deal. Whatever scenario you could think of. Any kind of emergency. So rewrite those codes, keep a few of the original ones, print these out on cards, and hand them out to your group. And say, here, you don't have to memorize them, but I want you to keep this in your shirt pocket or your coat pocket or whatever. And we're going to use these codes. So let's say like 1024. You can say, well, let's rewrite 1024 to mean meet me at the barn. Or 1025, meet me at headquarters, which could be your home base. Whatever. I mean, it's up to you. Use your imagination. Work with your friends or your family or whoever you're going to, wait out the storm with, so to speak. So that's a couple things there. Keep your communications short and sweet, to the point. And also, have some kind of codes. Actually, it was 3 things, wasn't it? And also, if you're checking on somebody, say someone's camped out on the other side of your property, when you check in on those people, if you use a radio to do that, stagger the times that you check on them. That way, people, if they're trying to figure out what the hell you're doing, it'll be harder for them to figure it out, because you're already using codes. And remember, GMRS and FRS and CB and MERS, you cannot conceal conceal your activities on the radio, but you are allowed to use 10 codes. So you can't really use language that actually conceals what you're doing. So you might want to sound a little bit more just like, hey, we're out, we're out in the woods, so we're messing around. But in reality, you are allowed to use the 10 codes. So it wouldn't hurt a thing to rewrite the 10 codes, or it wouldn't hurt a thing on ham or single sideband CB to rewrite the Q codes to work in your favor. So that's a few options you have. I don't think it's a good idea to sit and rag chew, unless, of course, maybe it's some kind of situation where you need to stay on the radio with that person to keep them calm, to keep them awake, keep them alert until help arrives. It could be a broken leg or something like that. So I could understand that. I can understand constant communications, but you have a situation, if you have a situation where it's a grid down and nobody can get any water, the worst case scenario, there's going to be some angry people. And one of the worst places actually could be a city. And I mean, we saw the looting and rioting back in 2020. We saw looting and rioting, and just, it was insane. We could have that at a higher level or a much worse level than what we saw in 2020. When all forms of communications like cell phones and internet are down, the electric is down, the water is down, people get pretty pissy, and rioting, breaks out. And we've seen this before, and I would expect to see a little bit taken up 5 more notches than what we saw back in 2020. Let's hope it doesn't happen that way. Don't give out your information about like food and your stores and your preps and what kind of electricity you have or where you live. Especially do not give out where you live or where you're camped out at. That would be something that you might want to wait a week or so after things have calmed down before you start giving out personal information. Still then, I would be very, very careful, very cautious about what I said on the radio. Keep, privacy private. Keep that stuff to yourself and inform your family members. Look, we can't say, meet me at Elm Street. Anyone within a 10-mile radius that can hear your voice on the radio probably knows where Elm Street is. So that's just inviting trouble. You certainly don't want to turn somebody away, but on the other hand, you may want to try to barter with that person. So if they have something that they can bring, you may want to choose a neutral location to meet up with instead of, taking chances and bringing them into your homestead or whatever. Think on your feet and think about the security of your home, your family, and your friends or whoever might be, hunkering down to wait out this next disaster with, just so make sure everybody's on the same page. I think it's important that we use radio communications in times of need, during a disaster. And emergency communications or whatever kind of communications that you can throw together, that's great. I mean, I don't, it's up to you. Everybody's budget is different. I have Midland radios. I would much rather prefer some of the more robust, rugged, IP67 type radios that are weather and dust proof, waterproof, things like that. I don't want to have to worry about dropping my radio in a puddle and then have to throw it in a bag of rice, which doesn't always work. But I would like to have better radios than what I have, but I think they will do the job for me just fine. I use a 15-watt Midland MXT 115. It's on a power supply in the house, and it's hooked up to a 20-foot tall GMRS antenna. And of course I have some Midland walkie-talkies. They're good, They're good radios, but they are not weather resistant. They're not very robust. They're not rugged. You can't just drop it and expect it to still work, or not to, can't expect to drop a Midland radio that you bought at Walmart. And I'm not knocking Midland because I like some of their products. But what I'm saying is you can't expect to drop one of those $60 radios that you bought in a bubble pack at Walmart and expect it not to fly in about a dozen pieces. With a more rugged radio, you can expect to maybe drop it a couple of times and it still survive. If you get one that's weatherproof, shockproof, then you have a better chance of that radio lasting longer than the Crisis if you take good care of your gear in the first place. But for my needs, I just talked to a few people and into a repeater that's about 10 miles from me. So what I have currently is working for me. And I would certainly like to upgrade later on, and that's a very good possibility. Another thing, too, if you're going to monitor the radio, and let's say you're bugged out somewhere in the woods, and you don't know if anyone's around you, and you don't want to take that chance of being too loud, if you're going to listen to the shortwave, or if you're going to listen to AM and FM radio, or if you're going to talk on your walkie-talkies or your base station, I suggest that you invest in some comfortable earbuds that have the microphone built into it. That way that you can sort of keep your voice down. Your partner can still hear you. And I would turn off Roger beeps. Roger beeps are great if we're not in a grid down, apocalyptic situation. They're fine. I have no problem with Roger beeps. But if you're in a situation where you want to keep quiet and keep a low profile, turn the beeps off, because you'd be surprised at what you can hear through them little earbuds. If you've ever sat on a bus or sat next to somebody who is jamming on their favorite tunes with their iPod or their iPhone cranked up to 11, you hear that, it's annoying. But just imagine if you're trying to hide out in the woods or whatever. And a lot of times those beeps on those radios is louder a lot of times than your modulation or your voice. So that's another thing that you might want to consider, is to shut those things off. I have a little video clip that I'm going to add here in just a minute, and then I'll wrap up this video. And I'm going to keep in the theme of sort of a pirate radio type vibe to this channel. So when I present something, it's going to be mostly audio. I'm going to get real creative. I'm going to throw some noise in there, and it's you're just take you back to the pirate days. Well, there's still pirates out there, but just imagine you're sitting back listening to a pirate over shortwave radio, and he's sharing this information with you. That's where we're going to go with this channel. So there'll be times where you will see me demonstrate something on video, on camera, but for the most part, it will be pictures, still images, and a soundtrack with my voice, and we'll be discussing the topic of the day, or topic of the week. So without further ado, I'm wanted to show how the CTCSS and DCS codes actually are not private, and then after that clip, it'll be the end of the video. So I hope you enjoyed what you've heard here and what you've seen. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down in the comment section. But any rude, hateful comments will be deleted, so don't even bother. This is not a place for hate and anger, unless it's, I don't appreciate having someone angry at me or someone trying to get me angry because they don't agree with my ideals. Well, we can agree to disagree and still be friends, and I'm not here to make enemies, but I'm not going to put up with somebody trashing me or any other YouTuber on YouTube at all. This is a great community, and we should stand up tall and proud and shoulder to shoulder and support each other, because it's not a competition. We're not out here for ratings. This is not TV. We're not going to be rated by Nielsen. So without further ado, here's a short video clip, and I hope you enjoyed what you saw here and what you've heard. Please like and subscribe and tell your friends about what you've seen here on my YouTube channel. Again, I'm Barry, and take care out there. Okay, so I spared you me getting up and walking over there to pick up these. Okay, these are Midland GXT 1000s. These are 2-watt handheld GMRS radios, FRS GMRS combo radios, made by Midland. Really nice radios, I think. But you know, I don't necessarily promote these for grid down, shit hit the fan type of communications. I can't believe they let us swear now. I'll keep it clean, okay, or try to. But you know, maybe if you were bugging in and you had no plans of ever leaving your property or your cabin or whatever, these probably would work great. The MXT 115 I have over here on the dresser, it's plugged into a power supply, and the base antenna is about 20 feet in the air. It does really good around here. In fact, I hit a repeater that's over 10 miles from me with no problems. Anyway, let's get into the CTCSS and DCS codes. DCS is digital coded squelch. The CTCSS is tone coded squelch. Okay, so in order to keep people from hearing you, you can turn them on, at least in theory. But let me show you something. This radio here, if this radio actually had, I really need better lighting in this room. Okay, there you go. If there were little numbers here next to the channel 16, that would mean that I had a privacy code enabled on this radio. However, it does not. Hello, testing 1, 2, 3. This radio has a tone. That's supposedly a privacy tone, but you see it's not very private, is it? This radio, however, does not have a privacy tone. It does keep this radio here from hearing this radio, but it doesn't work the other way around. So, in order for these two to hear each other, they both have to either have the tone turned on or the tone turned off. Okay, I'm pretty sure, and I'm going to test this right now because it's been kind of bugging me. I'm pretty sure that the DCS tones act the same way. We're going to try it though. Got a DCS tone on it. It's really hard to see, but okay. Now let's see what happens. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, see, it works either way, so it doesn't matter. Test 1, 2, 3. Now, DCS, it still does not hear me talking on this walkie-talkie. Okay, so that shows you they may not hear you trying to talk to them if they have a privacy code on, but when they talk, you can hear them when you have no privacy code programmed into your radio. And there are some radios coming out on the market here recently that will scan a particular channel. So let's say you're on channel 16. You see the receive light come on. Someone's talking, but you can't get them to hear you because they're using a code. Okay, no problem. A lot of these new radios, let's say you're on channel 16, you want to scan that DCS or CTCSS code that those strangers are using on their radio, because you might feel like you need to talk to them about whatever, like, hey, where can I get some water? Where's the Red Cross? Or, where's the bad people at? What's happened on Elm Street? Okay, what you could do on these newer radios, and I cannot think of the models right offhand, so you're just going to have to look it up yourself, or I might put a link in the description. A lot of the new radios coming out, the handhelds can scan, so you can be on channel 16. You push a button in the menu, and it scans through the CTCSS and DCS codes until those people key up, and it will stop, and it will display on the screen what code they're using, and then you just punch it into your radio. Voila, you can talk to them. Whether they want to hear from you or not, that's totally up to them. You might come across some people that think it's their channel. No one owns the channels. You can look this up on the FCC website. No one owns the channels, and nobody has exclusive rights to any channel. Channels, channels 1 through 22 could have, each of them could have 50 different people on them. And they could have 5 or 6 different repeaters on them. Okay? You can't get mad because Joe Schmo up the road decided he wanted to be on channel 16. Maybe you can make friends with him. You guys can talk about whatever.